Hello, everyone. Welcome if you're just joining us or you're watching the replay. I'm here with a wonderful Gabriel Ashton Brown. Gabriel, would you introduce yourself to the lovely people, please?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Gabriel Ashton Brown. I'm a voice actor, and director, and I'm here to talk with Kimmy about The Last of Us.
Yay.
Yeah,
Thank you so
that's
much for,
yeah, you'll get to know me.
yeah, she's awesome. We've connected a lot via Instagram and through FAIR, the
Mhm.
Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, and have a bit of stories about our pro-human connect as well, and what brought us to FAIR and how we connected to each other. But
Mhm.
I'm Kimika Titi. I am an artist living out here in Los Angeles. Hello, Emma Swan. Welcome. And yeah, we're just gonna catch up. We've been catching up on The Last of Us episodes 1 through 3. That was our previous live stream. And we're just gonna talk about episodes 4 to 6. Now, a little disclaimer. I am sick and I am recovering from a cold situation or something or the other. I'm not sure. So please excuse my nasally voice. But besides that, let's get into it,
If you
I guess.
hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have been able to tell.
Really? Well, for
You can
me,
hear it because it's in your head, so you're able to hear it
yes,
because your ears are plugged and you're like, "Oh, I smell it."
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
There's like this weird pressure thing going on, so I sound like I'm in like a tube. But
I hear
anyway,
it now that you said
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. Well, Gabe, how have you been? Before we get into this, how have you just been doing?
I've had a fun few weeks, really, really busy.
Yeah.
Um, January was like complete hustle, slow season. Everyone knows that when you're in voiceover stuff and when you're in acting too, this is audition season. This is when you start reaching
Mm,
out to agents and you start hustling, but nothing is coming through just yet. And now
yeah.
that February's here, and honestly, since February came, it's been a whirlwind. It's been
Oh,
so busy. So it's been really good, but it's
okay.
been a lot of work.
Got you. Well,
Yeah.
that's really good. And you
Yeah.
have a demo out, right?
Yeah. I have
Nice.
2 that I've made myself and then 1 that I just finally got, produced for me, and it's excellent. It is so good. Highly recommend you check it out. It's on my website,
Yay.
which is sourced below in the description, I believe.
I can type it in
But
the comments as well.
yeah, it's just my name. It's gabrielashtonbrown.com, and yeah,
gabrielashtonbrown.com.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's
Well,
my
thank you
thing.
for sharing that.
Thanks.
And I don't know if I asked this before, but have you done any voiceovers for video games? I think you said yes one time.
Yes, I've done a few video games, and this past week I actually did one for a medical simulation. So it's a video game, but
Oh,
for doctors, so that they can practice handling a certain situation. And so basically, for me in this situation, I was playing a 40-year-old woman named Roberta, and Roberta, her husband Carl had left her, and she was extremely intoxicated, and I think there might have been a weapon nearby based on what she was saying, and I was like, "Okay." She hadn't done anything, and she wasn't going to do anything, but she was, like, not at a good spot, and the doctors your job as the VR doctor is to, like, calm her down, get her to a
oh
good s
no.
like, what is it? De-escalate the situation,
Yeah.
and so I had to start off well, speaking like an authentic person would,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to start off really, really not wanting to comply and then ending with, "Okay, okay, I'm settled." So that was
Mm.
kinda cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you have to do different scenarios based on what the doctor chose? Did you
No,
have to
but I have
record for
done
that?
VR that is like
Okay.
that. I
Got
think
you.
this one was less open-ended,
Yeah.
but I've worked with this company before, and the other time that we did it had, like, 4 different endings, and,
Oh wow.
yeah, there was one that I did that was, like, an office place, like, HR coworkers talking,
Mm-hmm.
and in so many different ways, the girl that I was playing just becomes a total B. Like, she is so
Oh
mean and, like,
gosh.
she loses it, and mind you, there's a lot of different ways that you can provoke that side of her,
Yeah.
and it's yeah, it was fun.
Got you. That's
Yeah.
really cool. I love that. And it's so cool to
Yeah.
like talk to someone who is in that industry
Yeah.
and get your perspective on this. So thank you so much for being here.
It's fun.
All right, let's get into this.
Yes.
Episode 4. We last touched on 1, 2, 3.
I feel like
Episode 4 came along. And let's try to remember
I
what
know, I'm
happened
like,
in
"What was
episode 4.
episode 4?" So we just left off
Um
with 3 with, Okay, Tess is dead, and
Yeah.
then, by the way,
Episode 3
spoilers.
was what?
I said, by the way, spoilers. If you
Oh
haven't
yeah.
seen these episodes, don't watch
Oh
this.
yeah. This is gonna
Um,
be all in.
3 had Frank and Bill,
Yeah.
and so then 4 starts off with now that we've got
Mm-hmm.
the car that lasts so
Right.
long.
Exactly. And first things first, since we're talking about this from a pro-human perspective,
Mhm.
the opening scene, well, first they kind of, have a few bits of dialogue, right? Yes, Emma, this is the Kansas City arc that we're getting into in episode 4. We have Joel driving Ellie, and they run into this person as they're trying to find a way through the city, run into this person asking for help. Gabe, if you were in the same situation, you had no Joel, you had no Ellie, it's just you trying to make your way through post-apocalyptic United States, and you saw someone crawling to your car crying for help, what would you do?
Okay, so I think that we're missing context.
Yes, we are. Okay,
so
give
so
it
but
give
but
it us.
but like I don't know where I'm going. I don't know the situation. Am I
Yeah.
stable? Do I have supplies?
Mm,
Am I able to take care of myself?
okay.
And am I in a space where I feel like I can trust people? Now, so I'd like to
Yeah,
say that I'm the person who would stop, especially when you compared this scenario with the first car ride in episode 1,
that's
where
right.
you're
Yeah.
in the back seat with Sarah and you're in the front, you've got the 2 brothers, and then you're driving past and they see the family on the side of the road, and Sarah's like, "Should we stop? Should we let them in?" And Tommy's also like, "Yeah, should we do that?" And Joel's like, "No."
Yeah.
So, anyway, I I think
Right.
comparing that situation, so he was already going to say no matter what, basically, I think.
Yeah. I think that's
But
just his disposition.
I think I'd like to be the person that would say yes.
Yeah.
It needs to I need to know the context, and then also, I brought that up to my fiancé, and I was like, "What would you do?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not a parent. I can't tell you what I would do yet." I'm like, "That's a good point too,
Mm,
because as a parent,
that's a
your need to
different.
protect is a lot different than just like, 'Oh, I can take care of myself.'
Yeah.
Is there another kid there with me? Like, what's the situation?" So,
Right. Oh
I think
man,
that
that's a good
matters.
point. What if you were the immune one? Say, like, imagine Ellie was a little bit older. She's the only one who knows. You're the only one. Actually, it's Gabe. You're the only one who knows that you're immune to this, and you're carrying yourself across the United States trying to get to the Fireflies. How would you treat that situation the same? Would you be like, or would you say, I'm
Oh,
kind of precious cargo. I'm not going to take a risk
see, now
because
I think that Uh, this kinda goes back to my own beliefs though, but I think that women are innately vulnerable
yeah,
creatures. And I think that what we see, especially for what's to come in Last of Us, the scariest thing that's in this world is other people.
right,
It's not necessarily the infected. And yeah, they are really, really scary and hard to deal with, but it's it's other people and what people will go to at the end. Like
yeah,
what gets drawn out of these people.
exactly.
So I
All
I don't
right.
know, as a woman, I'm like, I don't think I would let anybody if it was just me, I'm like, I'd wanna know if I could protect myself or like, "Oh, yeah, I'm super sturdy, like, I'm gonna be able to handle myself." So it kinda
Yeah,
depends on who I'd be letting in the car, you
got
know?
you.
If it
True.
was if
That's a
it was
very good
that
point.
guy, probably not.
Yeah,
Probably not. If it was another woman, I'd be like, "Sure, yeah."
that's a good point.
But
Oh boy. Okay,
yeah.
so what did you think of the opening of episode 4? I
Gosh,
I I have a lot of thoughts about it, but
what was the opening? Can you
so
remind
like
me?
basically no, I mean they're at the gas station and or
Oh,
they're not at the
yes.
gas station. Joel is siphoning gas out of a tank. We introduced to the pun book. And then, they drive into Kansas City. This guy comes up to them. Joel is like, no, that's like a trick. How do I
Right.
know? I used to do that as well. They
Mhm.
drive through the city, a brick is thrown on the windscreen. That whole sequence leading up to the car crashing into the store, like compared to the game, what were your thoughts? How did you feel like we were entering into this episode?
Well, I think again, the world that we're seeing is different than the game. In the game, we see
Yeah,
us start in like a really urban setting and then slowly as we cross America get more suburban and then into the
yeah,
country. And I don't know, I just feel like the game really lays it on hard with the action,
Yeah.
which I love, and the show is straying as much from it as possible, and that's one of my biggest frustrations right now with the show,
Okay.
which we can talk about more, but,
Yeah.
um, I think seeing Ellie kill the clicker or the infected in the
Yeah.
beginning of that was a little insight into what she's like, but at the same time, I don't know, it made me frustrated because I was like, "Why are you being so stupid, Ellie? You know you're valuable, like, what are you doing?" Like,
You mean, are you talking about like
when she
episode
goes into the
3?
basement
Yeah.
at the very beginning of that, she goes down
Yeah.
and Joel isn't watching her, and I'm, like, imagining, I'm like, "Okay, in the game, if you were playing as Joel, he'd be like, 'Do not leave this room,' and then
Right.
if she did, there'd be some sort of, like, catch up," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know, the whole thing felt really weird, and I was like, I don't know, what am I supposed to take from this? I don't understand."
Right.
Except that she kind of enjoys killing things, and I didn't like how sadistic we're already seeing her get.
Yes.
Yeah, she likes it too
Okay.
much. She likes it
Yeah.
way too much.
Okay. This was kind of my frustration in episode 1. I don't know if you remember, we're exchanging voice notes and we're talking about the ending of episode 1,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
how she was like excited that Joel beat up the dude,
Mhm.
but like um I'm thinking back to, well, I'm thinking a bit forward now, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting this character development of Ellie that's very like violent, and I don't know if I can connect to her as much in that aspect. I
Yeah.
would love to see her. Well, we do see that in episode 5 where you kind of see her compassionate side kick in a little bit, but
I'd say even with that in episode 5 where we see her get a little bit sweeter, it
yeah.
still isn't sweet enough because she's
Mm,
sweet to Joel.
yeah.
She is. And,
Yeah.
like, yeah, she has issues here and there, and she is sarcastic and funny and, like, is disagreeable in certain ways, but
Mhm.
she isn't not sweet. No, maybe no, she is sweet. She is sweet. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but, she just yeah, she is sweeter in the game, and in the show,
Yes.
while that is brought out of her a little bit in episode 5, I did not feel like the character development that we really, really needed for the 2 of them, not
Mhm.
just on their own paths, but then with each other, like,
Yeah.
that bond needs to be, like, so solid even as they, are leaving Bill and Frank's,
Mm,
because when they leave Bill and Frank's, that's when we start to see, like, things get a little bit rougher for the 2 of them,
yeah.
and they're bonded even more based off of what happens in Kansas City, and I just feel like
No.
we didn't get the character development we needed, and then
Yeah.
when episode 6 comes along, I just didn't buy it.
Oh, no.
I know.
Okay. So, fun fact, I haven't seen episode 6. So, we're still gonna talk about it, but I guess I'm just gonna be listening to your observations and kind of piggybacking off of what I've experienced with the
Mhm.
gameplay. Okay, so I want to talk about episode 4's introduction to this Kansas City rebel leader, Kathleen. Um, what were your thoughts on Kathleen
Oh my goodness.
and everything going on with the takedown of Fedra in Kansas City?
Kathleen reminded me a lot of some of the teachers I've worked with.
Mm,
Um, I've taught kids ages 4 through 18 and then adults too in acting classes and theater camps and tons of different shows. And um basically this character I just felt like was so poorly cast, and I think she's a wonderful actor. I can't remember her name. And this is just my opinion. I just think she was really, really poorly cast. Um, the type of character that Kathleen is, I think is supposed to be sort of like an Azula type, Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender, someone who's female,
mhm.
chaotically evil, you're fearful of them, almost like a
Yeah,
Joker type of role.
right.
Like you're like and this is a really hard type of role to play. Like I don't think
Yeah.
most women actors could pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
And same as most men actors. I think that most people probably couldn't tap into like this Heath Ledger level of like, you don't know what she's going to do. She's off the edge. Oh my gosh, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I do think this comes back to the way that men are kind of, well, women are more vulnerable than men.
Mm-hmm.
And that men tend to be stronger.
Yeah.
And
In that
the
role.
most likely they're going to be the perpetrators of some violent act.
So do you
So
feel?
I think that men tend to be scarier in that situation, and that what you typically see
Yeah.
is, in my mind at least, I'm like, okay, I'd see some guy leading this revolution, her brother, or gosh, what's his name, who played Tommy in the game, what's his name in the show?
Perry.
Thank
Yeah.
you. But Perry is like, man's man. He's strong. He's tough. He's listening to the people who are around him. And he
Yeah.
seems to me to have a good head on his shoulders. Like, I was like,
Right.
okay, why isn't he in charge? And the whole time, every single scene between the two of them and anyone else, I was like, why aren't you leading? You know
And
what's up.
he's like, he's carrying the
He's
AR.
carrying the gun.
Yeah.
He's carrying the thing. And I'm like, why are you listening to this kindergarten teacher
Right.
who isn't scary to me?
That's a
Who
good
just
point.
is talking like this and is a little bit nerve-wracking. I'm like, I
Right.
don't believe you at all. I don't believe, like, because I never got to see, and we never ever get to see what she is capable of. So that first whole episode, I'm waiting till the end scene. So I'm like, oh, that's why we're afraid of her. And it never
Right.
came. And I was like, I don't understand why we are supposed to think she is, what did they say? Not vicious. What was the word? Like, oh, she's so ruthless. That's what they said. They're like, oh, yeah, in the after talk. And I was like, she's not ruthless. Are you kidding me?
Oh,
Anybody
well,
would do what she's doing. What are you talking about?
I hear you. It's interesting. I just want to quickly read this comment from Emma.
Sure.
The actress wasn't intimidating enough to play such an evil character.
Yeah.
It's important to cast an intimidating actor to portray an intimidating role. 100%. I mean, until we were talking about this, I hadn't realized it. I guess I'm still kind of in La La Land, where I'm enchanted by everything that I see with The Last of Us, and so now I've had the time to think about it, and I'm like, you know what? Perry could have easily been like, you're losing it. We have this underground infected situation to take care of. Listen to me now. I wonder what it is supposed to be in the story. That this is my theory. What if her brother, now we're skipping a little bit into episode 5's like reveal of why she's so ruthless, but what if her brother, that was a rebel leader, was that Heath Ledger crazy? No, but she says he was forgiving.
Yeah, he was forgiving. He was like more of a Jesus type.
Yeah.
Like the way she described him like that, I was like, okay, so
yeah.
I don't know.
There's no
reason
reason.
To me.
That makes
can't
so
have
much
two
sense,
Jokers
Gabe.
in a family.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Now you have me three.
And the thing is, like, I do think that had they cast it the right way, I could see it, you know, but I just think that this was so poorly done, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of really great female actors who I think could do it, you know? I'm like, yeah, bring them in.
What if they were trying to say, again, I'm throwing in a bit of devil's advocate here, but what if they were trying to make this point, and this is, I guess, where we can insert our pro-human lens. What if they're trying to say that this kind of vengefulness can overtake anyone, like even the sweet suburban mom type, who, you know, is unpredictable, but like there's no. Do you think it's effective that way, or is it just like, nah, she just wasn't?
I think if that's what they're trying to tell, I think they could have put that possibly in a different location if they still wanted to keep the actress. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that, like, yes, your fear, your anger, your wanting for revenge can destroy you, which is definitely a plot point in the show as well. But I think that probably I don't know what they wanted to do. I think that they just cast it really, really poorly. I don't know, because if it is something that she's struggling with, her forgiving or wanting to forgive, I didn't connect with her enough to actually care. I
Yeah.
don't like that scene where she's talking. I was like, wow, this is like every like freshman college student's monologue, like freshman year. Like this is the
Yeah.
monologue you bring, and then your teacher like rips it apart, and then you rework it for the
Mm.
whole semester.
Oh
Like
man.
that's what that scene felt like. And
Okay.
it's not that her performance was especially bad, or even that the writing was especially bad. It was just
Yeah.
kind of a combination of a few different things, and then me just saying like, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and because wanting to, gosh, like, yeah. So I guess the showrunners probably included it and did this, like you said, to
Hmm.
show this forgiving arc. What are your thoughts on it?
So I never, maybe it's just because I'm not in the acting world. It never occurred to me that she wasn't like hitting all the, like, to me it was like a good performance, and I was like, okay, halfway,
Maybe
like
I'm being harsh. Maybe I'm being too harsh.
maybe, but you're coming for it from a professional angle. By the way, she's Australian,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. What's her name? I looked
I
her up.
have
I just
no
can't remember her
idea
name.
what her name is, but I immediately was like, well, there has to be some reason she's acting crazy, and why all these people are under some sort of spell and they can't like push back. Um,
Melanie
allegiance.
Linsky's. Melanie
Mm.
Linsky.
But the good thing is she's like done with. She's just like a 2 episode leader.
I
I
know.
maybe for the long haul, I couldn't see her as like a threat, like for the long term. But
I don't understand why um Perry is like listening to her as
yeah.
she's number one. Why is she
Hmm.
top dog? I don't understand why
Exactly.
she's top dog. Like I don't understand why they may be like, oh, like let's reference her. She's like in the top three even. Like she's
Hmm.
her brother's counselor or something like that. But
Hmm. Hmm.
um yeah, no, I did not understand because it just didn't make any sense.
Bet.
It did not
Okay.
make sense to me.
Got it. Got it. All right. So we have our introduction to Kathleen and Perry and Kansas City.
Hmm.
And honestly, my mind goes blank because I don't remember what happened.
So then Ellie kind of gets to see a person get killed and then also help kill, right? So she
No,
shoots she shoots this
yes.
kid who is attacking Joel, and then Joel finishes him off.
Yes, that happens. And then, but then we go to Kathleen. We see this underground
M-
monster
eh,
kind of bubbling.
Right, which the way they describe it, they're like, yeah, they're down there still. Like, and I'm like, okay, they're down there.
You're not gonna take care of
Mentally
it.
write down. Yeah, yeah, just write that down in your brain and you're like, "Okay, not gonna take care of it. Getting Henry is more important than
Oh
that
yeah.
situation."
Also, the whole like obsession over Henry was a bit weird, given
Yeah,
like there's a whole like town to look after, and it's like
right, which is why I'm like,
Henry.
"Why are you the leader then?" I don't
Yeah.
understand because anyone who's I don't know why they would put her in charge because if there is this many people to now run and, like, take charge of and control and lead, why not everybody's gonna give as much of a crap about or not Henry, well, catching Henry as you do,
Yeah.
and that's fine, but as a leader, you have to listen to your people and also participate with your people, like, you
Right.
have to lead by example, and I don't know, I don't need to tell you how to be a leader. You're a leader, but, like,
Yeah.
like, it it's just dumb. It felt so dumb, and I was
Yeah.
so frustrated because we were spending so much time with them and not with Ellie and Joel, who still hadn't had their development together. I still don't really see them bonding, except now they're telling knock knock jokes, which I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then every single episode that's gone by, I'm like, I just want to see more of this, more bonding, more of this, and more
Yeah.
action.
I
I
did
want more
love.
action and more bonding, and that's it.
Did you what do you think of the puns? I love that they threw that in there in such a like in the because in the game we do have the pun book as well, but it's sort of like a filler for when the character goes idle. And
Mhm.
but in this it's used as this sort of what do you call it? Like when the characters connect.
It's a point, a
It's
connection point. It's just a
it's like a
point.
connect, yeah. And they do this arc where towards the end it signifies some sort of like closer bond that Joel and Ellie build. What did you think of that? Do you think it was effective? Do you think it was corny? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, it's totally corny, but
No.
totally needed though. Totally
Okay.
needed.
Okay.
I love puns, and I know they're bad. I love stuff like that.
I
So
love them because they're bad.
yeah, exactly. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's okay. You can like those things and other things too.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else about episode 4, or do you think overall, like, this was one of those episodes that was a little bit unforgettable? I mean, forgettable.
It was forgettable.
No.
It was. I just the whole time was waiting for it to be over. Is that bad? I was really, really like itching for action, and then we get to so that kill scene that's kind of in the middle there, where they take out this young boy of like 14 or 15. I mean, part of it's because I've played the game so many times that I'm like, what am I want to see them kill more people. Where's the car? Where's the run car? Where are they like shooting from? You know,
right?
We never got. I feel like we never got any good fight scenes.
So this is the action point you wanted to talk about earlier, right?
Yeah,
that there's not enough action
throughout, and I also understand you've got to stick to a budget. You've got to like kind of make your moments count. So we've got a really, really strong opener for the show. Oof. And it slowly has just been decreasing less and less and less and less. And now I know, so? I think so, in terms of action.
That's so fascinating. For me, it's kind of the opposite. I don't know. I don't know if that's like a common like experience that many viewers are having, because I personally feel like it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, especially with the sort of, it goes like this. It has a little bit of a dip with episode 3 and 4 because it's a little slower, and then episode 5, the end of episode 5 just like hits you like bam, and you're awake again, and you're like, I don't know. That's how I felt. It felt like this build.
We'll get to episode 5. Let's talk about it, because I do want to talk about the action in episode 5 too.
Okay, so I just had to like quickly look up episode 4 to just remember what happened, because to me episode 5 overshadowed everything in episode 4.
Yeah,
because they're kind of combined. They're supposed to happen in the same time sequence, and so in my head they're kind of overlapping, and I'm struggling to distinguish the two. Is there anything else about episode 4 that you remember or want to talk about? Or should we just begin to talk about episode 5?
She kills the doctor at the beginning, and I think that's one, how you can tell she's a bad leader.
Okay.
And 2, why if all the guards there and Perry should know by that time, okay, we don't need to listen to this person anymore.
Yeah, like she's crazy.
Well, but she does it because she's putting her revenge and putting her anger and her fear before putting what is best for the people who I care about.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I pulled up this New York Times recap. Hello, of The Last of Us episode 4.
I don't think there's anything we didn't touch on.
Honestly, now that we recap it, I'm like, you know what? Episode 4 was pretty quiet. It was a chill one. Granted, I still personally kind of I liked it.
Joel's hearing is getting worse in episode 4. The hearing, because he puts all the glass down so we'd hear it or hear them enter, and then he doesn't hear them. And I wonder, because episode 6, they've got some sleeping issues with Joel too, which I'll talk about later, but and some other things, but I just wonder if that was like a bit of some foreshadowing for him aging faster than he'd like to admit.
Okay. By the way, welcome, Jade. You're not really late. You're all right on time. We're just talking about episode 4, and we're about to transition into episode 5. Oh my gosh, math. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna go blow my nose because I am not
go ahead. Well. Go ahead.
Gabe, do you mind telling the folks a story while I'm away temporarily? I will be right back. All right.
Sure. Does anybody in the chat have a question they'd like to ask for a story, or like, oh, Kimmy, I can't hear you. Well, this is fun.
Go for it, Gabe. I'll be right back.
Let me tell you guys a story. Oh man. The doctor character was underrated. I agree, Emma. Yeah, I agree. The doctor was underrated. And I wish we had seen more of that character. And I know we got a little tiny bit more of him in episode 5, but just felt like I was yeah, like we didn't get to really get to connect with him or see very much of this world. So this world of the doctor and what was going on before. I have so many things I want to add about the doctor's intelligence. Did he well, we'll get there. We'll get there. I've got some feelings. But characters wise, yeah. Yeah, we've got some fun things coming up. Hey, how you doing, Kimmy?
I'm great. Thank you so much. What was the story about?
There was no story. We talked about the
Oh,
doctor character though. So the doctor
oh,
character, Emma feels that he was underrated, and I agree. I think he was underrated, and I wanted to see more of him. And we see a little tiny bit more of him in
yeah.
episode 5, but not enough, I think, to make sense
Okay.
of the things that I have questions about.
Dr. Edelstein or Edelstein.
Good for you remembering his name.
I love the show so much, Gabe.
Good.
Okay, so episode 5 personally was one of like the best episodes of TV I have ever seen. Now I know we might
Wow.
differ on this a little bit, but I really loved episode 5, and we are introduced into the story from the perspective of Henry and Sam, right? Or are we introduced from Ellie and Joel? Wait.
No, we don't see Ellie and Joel. It starts off. Gosh, does it start off with Henry? Where does this
How does it open
begin?
again? Like my brain is like meshing both 4 and 5 together so hard.
My brain is like episode 6. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
How does it
Oh, you're on
begin?
episode 6.
I
Well,
know.
basically, we can start from the fact that Henry and Sam were in, speaking of Dr. Edelstein, they found this shelter that the doctor helps Henry and Sam escape, and then they're put into this like attic space upstairs, and we're kind of with them as they're trying to figure out their escape. Episode 5 opens with that violent, like everything's on fire. Like people in Kansas City are like stabbing Fedra. Do you remember that?
Yes,
It was
and
so
Henry
dramatic.
and Sam are escaping.
Yes.
Right, they're getting to a safer point. Yeah.
Maybe I was so traumatized by how violent that was that my brain just like
I'm gonna I have to I still like can't picture all of that. I don't know why. My brain is like nope.
Is like bodies being dragged out.
Yeah.
Do you remember it now? No.
Parts of that maybe?
It's all good. Don't worry about it. So we've established that this is the introduction of Henry and Sam. I think that's a healthy enough sort of timestamp for us to like proceed forward.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the casting of Henry and Sam?
Okay, so I think both of those roles were well cast. And I think both of those actors were true to the characters, and this is my hot take. I think the kid who played Sam is better than Bella Ramsey as Ellie. I just think the kid was the kid can't speak. He can't. I mean, he can, but he can't really. He can speak through sign language. There's no dialogue that comes from this actor, because he's deaf, and I think that enhanced some parts in the story. But I think the way he was able to convey the deep emotions that Sam has was some of the best acting I've seen from the show. I think he just
Yay!
was great.
He
And
was amazing.
so cute and so sweet, and my heart cries.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I listened to the podcast, that
Oh,
accompanies
yeah.
this episode. Did you listen to it
I
too?
haven't, I haven't, but I'm reminded that you listened to the podcast for it, and I wanna know what you have to say about it.
Oh,
'Cause
man,
what insight?
highly recommend it. I cannot recommend the podcast enough. It's so good, especially if you're into, like, production, like,
Mhm.
the behind the scenes. It's literally Neil Druckmann, the creator of Last of Us, Troy Baker, who voiced Joel Miller, and Craig Mazin, who wrote and created Chernobyl as well as The Last of Us. It's just the three of them talking about it. And Craig is talking about how the casting, like, for Sam
Mhm.
was so miraculous in the sense of, like, here you are writing like a storyline or a character, like a black 8-year old, like, deaf child. You know what I mean? Like, it was very niche down. And apparently, like, the submissions for this, there were like 80 submissions. And he thought, like, it was going to be hundreds of thousands of people because, like, the rest of all the other characters, it was like a lot.
Yeah.
But this was a very hard one. And I might be getting this wrong, but from what I remember, I think Kayvon, I think might be his name. Woodward. I might be butchering it. Please forgive me. But he was like the only one who seemed to be perfect for the role. It was almost
Mm.
like he was like made for this casting.
Mhm.
And to see that not only did he fit that niche down, because he's actually deaf, by the way, in real life,
Mhm.
he also nailed it in the performance. So he wasn't just cast, but he like crushed it. To me, that's one of the elements that makes this one of my favorite episodes of TV ever. Um, yeah. Anyway, so
I love that the cast got to learn sign language and learn
yes,
something new from that,
yeah,
and that form of communication is different, and same like any other language, that you'd be
absolutely,
able to share with your like fellow cast members that and the crew too, that
yeah.
then apparently by the end of it, everyone is now using sign language and able to communicate in a new way, which is
That's so
amazing.
cool.
It's so cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Also, the actor that played, what's his name? The actor that played Henry. I don't know his
We're
his
gonna have
actual
to get
name.
the names listed up at some point
I
because
know. Terrible, terrible. He learned American Sign Language like over one weekend.
and you kind of would, I mean, like,
Right.
you'd learn your alphabet and then everything else,
Yeah.
words they've got motions for.
Right.
Let's see, Lamar Johnson.
Oh, thank you
He was
so
so
much.
good. He was
It,
so good.
he was so convincing.
Yeah.
Um, gosh, that episode. Okay, so what exactly about episode 5? Because I know you alluded to this, but you're not as convinced that it is a great episode as I am. What is it
Yeah.
about episode 5 that you did not gel with?
So the sequence in the game, I'll start with that. The sequence in the game, this is one of my favorite parts in the game. Um, because we get to see Ellie connect with another kid who's her age. We also get to see how they do things differently. They're also on the run and hiding and moving about. And there's this great moment in the game when Sam picks up a toy and Henry says, "You can't take that with you. You know the rules." And we've already established rules between Ellie and Joel,
Yeah.
and Ellie is not following any of them. Ellie pushes Joel around, and Joel lets her do it, and I don't understand. Because in the game, Joel kind of is, like, a little bit harsher, at least
Yeah.
that's the vibe I get,
Yeah.
whereas in the show, he's just kind of
Like,
he's swallowed by his own grief still so much
yeah.
that he's become a pushover when it comes to little girls, and I don't buy it.
Mm,
I don't buy it.
okay. Yeah.
Whereas the rules with Henry and Sam are one of the rules was, like, you only take what you can carry and, like, you only take what's necessary.
Yeah.
So then Ellie picks up the toy and she takes it back and then she gives it to Sam to
Mhm.
hide it from him. And I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of a touching moment in the game. And then they didn't include it in the show. And I was like, okay, all right, it's fine. And they connected over other things. But one of the sequences in the game is they're running away. They're escaping the city. They cross the bridge, kind of fall into the water. And
Yes.
Henry has a moment where he decides, am I going to stick with them or am I going to ditch and take Sam and
Yeah.
like do our own thing? And they
Uh-huh.
ditch. They leave. And I'm like, okay, all right then. Screw you too. But so they end up separating and then
Yeah.
they get reconnected anyway. And then they're like, okay, we're going to work as a unit again. But at that point in the game, you're like, all right, so we're not going to trust each other the same
Mhm.
kind of way. But then they get separated underneath and he's, like it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then they're following Ish's story, which is also one of my favorite parts of the game. When you go into the sewers and you're looking around at what this group of people had set up, and then
Mhm.
somehow it all got ruined, and there's people that got killed and kids that got killed,
Mhm.
and it's just so horrific and so terrible.
Yeah.
Um, and that part of the game was really important to me. It's
Yeah.
one of those things that really, really sticks.
It's one of those, it's like an important moment for the game as a whole, kinda. Oh, I also remembered something, but I think episode 6 might deal with this. But okay, so speaking of the
So
betrayal of Henry and Sam, right? Of Henry towards Joel and Ellie when Henry in the game parts ways, right? Do you think that they sort of alluded to that capacity for betrayal in the fact that he traded um Kathleen's brother to Fedra for medicine for Sam? Because they knew they probably didn't have the production like power or time to depict the whole abandonment thing.
I had not considered that. Um, I'm gonna have to sit on that one a little bit longer. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't. I think the only part where I saw Sam and Henry say we're ditching you guys was when we get to the sniper section. That was the only spot that I was like, okay, I see that, because
Oh, they did that?
there's a brief instant, yeah, when they're behind the
Oh.
car and it's Ellie and Sam and Henry, and when they
Oh.
start to get closer, he dips out. Or they
Ah.
start to dip out. Or maybe Joel isn't back up at the sniper nest just yet, but
But Ellie gets
they're
isolated.
about to be. Yeah, they're about
Okay.
to be. They try to leave and then the shots start coming and then they're like, "Okay," and so they hide back.
Mm,
That's the
maybe.
only instant that I saw that being referenced. Um
Understood. Okay.
But at that point, I'm like, "Oh, we're already too late now," you know?
Mhm.
Um,
And we're
but,
overwhelmed by all of the like action that's
everything
just
else.
beginning to
Right,
play
right.
out. So okay,
So,
so yeah.
to go back just a bit,
Uh-huh.
I just feel that, uh so we start following not the 2 main characters, but these other
Mhm.
2 people that we haven't met yet. Um, and we're following them. Now, in the game, Sam is not deaf, and I
Yes.
don't think it I don't think it takes away anything from Sam other than the ability to communicate,
Mhm.
but it does make him more reliant on Henry, especially because he is younger in the show.
Yeah.
He's 8, and so
Right.
he's a child. Like, he's not gonna be able to use a gun or fend for himself the way that an adult would,
Mhm.
who can hear the clickers. Like, not this world is not safe for anybody, but especially not for someone who is this vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then the show one of the things that I'm confused about is the
Mhm.
timeline. And this is actually, probably one of my biggest gripes with this episode besides
Okay.
Kathleen.
Okay.
Um, your eyes.
I'm like, okay.
So, my biggest gripe with this is the timeline, I don't think makes very much sense, um, in terms of when did Henry turn in the brother? When did Henry get medicine for leukemia? When did, uh, Sam recover from leukemia? And what who discovered the cure to cancer? Like, I I know we have treatments and things for leukemia, but I don't understand how they still exist in this world and how everything's gone down. I don't the timeline doesn't make sense to me of when did Henry turn him in? When did the brother get killed? Like, all of it. All of it. I
That makes
I
so
don't
much.
get it.
Now that you've like laid that out, I'm like, you're so right. Cause
But when he brings up the leukemia, I'm like, is it not enough that he's deaf? Is it not
right,
enough because the leukemia is also not in the game? And so I'm
right.
like, okay, so could it
Why couldn't
not be
it
something
be
that like he has
medicine
a
relevant
hearing,
to?
yeah,
Yeah,
something to do with him being deaf or
yeah.
something like that. Like
Like, why did we throw
why did you just throw in this disease that is horrible?
it? Why am I
But
laughing?
why
It's
I don't
we
know.
shouldn't be laughing.
Especially
It's serious.
after Frank died from some mysterious disease that I was like, "Is this cancer? Like, what does
Right.
he have?"
What is it?
So
Yeah.
so I guess cancer is still a really big issue. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Because okay, so the timeline, what you're saying is Kathleen feels freshly vengeful.
Yes.
The way she's carrying out her like vendetta thing, or I don't know if that's the right word, like the way she's carrying out this, search for Henry, it feels like it just happened. Like he just traded her brother, the brother just died. And if that's the case, then that would mean he just got the medicine. Like the exchange recently happened,
Right.
therefore, like, yeah, that is that what you mean? Like the time just doesn't work
Yes.
out for that, because in the time it would take for Sam to recover from leukemia, you would kind of have gotten over the fact that
Or
your
like
brother was,
what sort of treatment is he getting then?
yeah,
What exactly was the necessary things that he was getting?
yeah,
And like okay, so if Kansas City is a protected QZ,
mhm,
um, why wouldn't the guards of the QZ kill the brother? What's the brother's name? Whatever the brother's name is.
yeah, the brother.
The
I have
brother.
no idea. Rebel
Gosh,
leader too.
the brother, the rebel leader.
Yeah,
Why, if they had, like, if this had happened a few years prior, maybe they were using Henry as intel, and they were like, well, we're not going to kill him just yet because otherwise they'll know. But I'm like, you wouldn't have let it escalate if you were the leaders of the QZ. You just would
yeah,
have ended it.
exactly.
Um. Oh, we've got a message from Emma Swan here. This says Henry in the game is a capable survivor. I see Henry in the series as weak.
Mm.
Interesting.
He
I'd
was
I'd be
very
curious
like,
to know what you think, Emma. Why do you see him as weak?
yeah, Emma,
Is
let
it
us know in the comments.
I
I'll drop.
wonder oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Gabriel.
Oh, no, I wonder if it's because the choices that he has to make are weaker choices because he too is in the need to protect his brother.
Yeah.
He has to make harder choices and
Hmm.
do things that are not good in order to get by,
Maybe.
because that was the other thing. So,
Yeah.
in the game, not in the game, in the show, goodness, in the show,
Mm.
uh, he gosh, my brain is blanking.
In the show,
In the show, Henry has to what's the term they used? He has to gosh, what is the term?
in the
Uh,
show,
in the show, he gives information to
yes,
the guards, but I don't
yes.
remember the exact terminology that they used in that section. He's a
Mm,
traitor, but it's a specific word. It's like traitor, but it's worse than
hmm.
that.
Okay,
It it'll come back to me some other time.
it's okay. Yeah, it'll come back during the course of the
Right.
as we are into the storyline. Emma says he's very
He's like a
dependent on
snitch.
Joel in the series. Nikki adds he's like a snitch. Oh, is that the word you're looking for?
It's not
Snitch?
the word that they used, but snitch,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
the people who turn against their own people, and
Mm.
maybe that's why she's more frustrated
Yeah, like a
at
rat,
him.
kinda. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
at the same time too, you'd be like, "Yeah, let's take care of little Sam, though." I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, all right. So,
We'll get
uh,
to yeah, we got to
ooh, it's
Emma
tricky.
Emma Swan continues to say, "Not morally weak, physically weak. Henry can hold his own in the game and helps Joel, but in the series, he's almost like an extra child for Joel to babysit." Yeah,
Ooh,
I see that.
that's a really good point.
I see that.
That's a really good point. But what about the fact that he knows about the tunnels? Doesn't his intel give him a bit of a leg up? Because he's like, yeah, there's no one there, and we got this.
This is the other plot point of the game that I think
Uh-oh.
makes no, or not the game, the
The
show
show?
that makes no sense. And
Okay.
that the last thing I remember said, take notes, because we see this bubbling people thing. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to go into the sewers. Okay, we're moving the sewers just a little bit up in this
Yeah, we moved
version.
the
And I was like,
sewers up a
okay,
lot.
let's
Yeah.
do it. And then they get into the sewers and there's no zombies, no
Mm,
infected, no people. And I was like, I don't understand. We just saw them. We just saw them in
yeah,
down under there. So where are they?
right.
Where are they? Nope, we don't know. We don't know, and it doesn't matter, I guess. And what's weird is that in the game, they're down there. It's
Yeah,
terrifying. It's really, really fun and scary, and
yeah.
there's a lot of action. Even if you don't want to film the action, you can still have this episode where there's a little bit of fear underneath and being in the
Yes.
sewers, and you don't know where they are. That's okay. I
Mm-hmm.
wish they had leaned into something that was more like that, in contrast with the fun soccer game
Oh, yeah.
that Ellie and Sam play together, and they like
Mm-hmm.
their little coloring moments and stuff like that. Like I liked that, but I wanted that with this. All right, and when we cross through to this room,
Yeah,
we are in pitch black and it's terrifying and we
right.
can hear noises. And
Right.
that's it.
Um, Interesting. So, okay, so now we get to this was my favorite part of episode 5. I absolutely loved that, like the kind of third act. I don't know how movie is.
Yeah, the
The
third act.
third act, I guess. Once they're in this, like, what do you call it? Like a neighborhood cul-de-sac? I don't know. There's a house at the end, and there's a sniper in the house, and the sniper is targeting Joel, Ellie, Henry, and Sam after they get out of that tunnel section.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is like the way they built that set was just like the game,
Yeah.
and I loved that. What were your initial thoughts?
Also, I loved that. I was so excited because that whole episode had felt so slow, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden we had action, and I was like, "Yes! Thank you!"
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I absolutely love that they paid, like, they honored that down to the T.
Yeah.
Granted, it was at night, but I think this was for the fire and effects. According to the podcast, they wanted to have a good contrast with the fire and explosions that we see later on. But I loved how Joel, this interaction he has once he finally gets the sniper, right? He's sort of he's trying to be merciful and understanding because he's like, look at this old man, like, what are you doing shooting at us at night? Please don't do this, don't make me do this, you don't stand a chance. And whoever this old man was just was, I guess, committed to the cause of just gunning these kids and Joel down. So I did love that interaction, speaking to like the fact that Joel does have I guess, an ounce of compassion in him. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And then we hear the radio, and Kathleen is saying, hold them there or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
hold them
keep them
there. We're
there.
coming. She's like
Oh,
that on the radio. I like was so pissed off when she started speaking through the radio. I was like, "Are you kidding me? No." Thought
what
we'd
did you think of
forgotten
that?
her.
So, like, that's
Oh.
different from the game. Is it? It's a little bit different.
It's different in the
Yeah,
game because we've gotten out of the QZ area, so it's a completely different group of raiders and tough guy
exactly.
macho people, scary
Right.
men, whatever. But yeah, no, it, it then was followed by the trucks coming, and in the truck you have a woman truck driver and the guys in the front seat, and I don't remember what the actual back and forth was, but she said something, and he said something, and then she corrected him and then was right. And I was like, I see
Wait,
this.
what?
Yeah, I have to figure out what it is. I want to speak on it more. I just remember being
Okay.
like, why do we always see this? I feel like we
Right.
see this all the time, which is the woman who's driving the car is always the one who's right. And I'm like,
Right.
this is a trope now. This is
Yeah.
annoying.
It's the kind
It's
of like representation thing where it's like, oh.
Well,
you know.
yeah, just like in a little bit of a forced way that I'm like, oh, okay. But then to be fair, she crashes that truck. So,
Oh, okay.
well, she does get shot, and that's why it crashes. But
Oh,
like, but I was
got
like,
you.
okay, gosh, I have to figure out what that back and forth was. I just remember in the
Okay.
moment being like,
Oh, that's
what?
weird. Yeah.
This is weird.
Um,
It was also coming from two people who haven't spoken yet that are completely new to us. I was like, what?
like, why are we listening to them? What?
Yes.
Why are you talking? So was that the run truck?
It was the one that crashed. I think
The
that
one that
might
crashed?
have been one.
Oh man. Okay, so in the game,
Yeah.
for those of you who have not played the game, we have a whole sequence with a very menacing truck with Sam, Henry, Joel, and Ellie. And that was one of the worst parts for me in the game. Is just like anywhere you were visible, like
Mm-hmm.
it was going for you. So I did love that they kind of again threw it in there, like not quite in the same capacity as a game, but they threw it in there and it led
But it was
to us
there.
finding this underground horde of before we get into the horde.
But yeah.
Yes, go
So
ahead.
how did you feel about the little speech that Kathleen gives to Henry?
Oh, kids die all the time.
Kids
One.
die all the time.
Oh
You
man.
got to say it like her though. Kids die all the
All the
time. And you're like, "Ew, okay."
time. I okay. So in the moment, I was still very like, why is she still going for Henry? Like, dude, you do not need to waste all these resources
Yeah.
on a dude and his 8-year-old brother. Like, you have the whole city coming for you. Like, y'all don't have factories. Reserve your ammo. But she was
No
so hell bent
long-term
on it.
thinking. No long-term thinking at all from Kathleen.
Exactly.
And Perry should have known better. He should have
Exactly.
known better. All of them
Right.
should have.
Yeah. I do think it's weird that she went on a whole like if you have spent this song searching for Henry, just end it there. Like I don't mean to be sadistic or cruel, but she had to go on the whole villain speech.
Right.
Anyway.
Ah. Don't you hate it when they do
Anyway.
that? Don't you you're just like, "Oh, man." Or the villain speech where they're recording it the whole time. They're like, "Gotcha."
Right.
And then the cops come in and they're like, "Yeah." And they arrest the bad guy. Yeah.
I
Like,
know.
we've seen it's always just better just to end it.
Just
Just
anyway.
have your way, just
Right.
win.
Otherwise,
Don't
hey,
soak in the moment because otherwise
exactly.
you'll lose it.
We'll have a car sinking in the background into the
Yeah.
tarmac and zombies are gonna emerge. Which okay, so that and by the way, Nikki says I've never played the game, but from a newbie standpoint, it was a great setup. And she did need closure, I guess. I mean, she's been looking for these guys for forever. So,
Okay,
right?
okay, yeah, but and so just flashing back just a little bit, we'd seen the scene with Perry and her in her child bedroom where Perry
Yes.
was like, "Your mom told me you'd be here." And I'm like, "Oh my
Oh,
gosh, her
so her
mother's
mom's still there?
existing." Yeah. Yeah, that his like he says like your mom said you would be here. And I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
"Who is this lady child? Who are you?" Um, but
I missed
she
that part.
yeah, it was like, "Okay, all right." Um Yeah, very odd. And she strikes me as somebody who was still pretty young when the not the pandemic, the infection, what is it?
The outbreak?
The outbreak, thank
Yeah.
you, occurred.
Okay.
And um so with her being a young person
Yeah.
in that time, I think it probably really, really shapes who you're gonna turn out to be, and I
Mm,
don't know what about her and her brother made them different people, but her wanting to forgive, I just that last speech at the end and wanting the
yeah.
closure goes back to that scene for me,
Yeah.
where she's talking about, like, "I can't forgive, I can't do it."
Mm.
Something in me is like, "No, I can't let them get away with it."
Okay, I'm gonna put a pin on the child part
Yes.
because um later on we do see the fact that in her lack of forgiveness, um she eventually gets eaten by a child zombie or a child infected, which I don't know if the writers were trying to say something with that, like her inner child, like she couldn't let go of something, or maybe the fact that she said kids die all the time, and here's this like, you know,
Yeah.
partially somewhat unliving child attacking you. I don't know if that was meant to be like an allegory, allegorical.
Allegory. Yeah.
Oh Lord,
It could
English.
be allegory. Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, I
I
don't know.
I think too that in a way she's kind of a child. She
Mm,
handles things rashly. She doesn't think things through. She's thinking short term and not long term.
yeah,
And kids die all the time. And we know that grown-ups are really just little kids, pacing things together one step at a time. We just happen to be a little bit smarter and wiser in certain ways.
right.
But it is one of those things that I think what you're saying goes back to her line, well, kids die too.
Yeah,
It's that philosophy is biting her in the butt,
right.
now. Yeah.
Man.
But there
Well,
also might be like she is actually a child too. I don't know.
yeah,
Hi,
exactly.
Anna from Texas.
Welcome, Anna. Emma says that's what you call poetic irony.
Mm,
Nikki, her karma scene isn't one we knew we needed. I was very satisfied with that.
mhm.
But the whole, I gotta say, the way the I don't know if I should say the budget, but like put into that scene when the infected emerge from the ground.
Let's talk
I
about it.
was screaming. I was like, thank you. I know where some of this 100, $200 million budget went. How much was it? $100 million? I think it was 100
Some
million.
crazy amount. Some good amount of money was spent on this episode. And you can tell, you can
Yeah.
see. Um they also had like a infected walking school. I actually got to be part of
Mm,
the Walking Dead spin-off series. It was
really?
yeah, so I was part of that. I was an extra. It wasn't like anything special. But
That's
when
so
we were
cool.
auditioning, they were looking for people who were local in Virginia who could come on out for it
Hmm.
and not just audition as extras, but audition to be zombies.
Oh,
And
wow.
so in that, I had to send a few different auditions in to see if I could get into, like, the zombie classes, and
Yeah.
I made it into, like, there's, like, 5 rounds. I made it into, like, the round 3 or 4,
What?
and my brother made it he was asked to come all the way to the final round where they have, like, 10 people, and, like
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
my brother's, like, pretty skinny. He's a cross-country runner. He might be
Right.
watching, I don't know. Hey,
Right.
Jeremy. Um and so, he's pretty thin, so and he's wiry too, and he moves his body pretty well. So
Uh-huh.
when he was in there, they were like, "Oh, this is so cool." He couldn't go and do it because he had a conflict or something with work that day,
Oh,
but, like, so,
that is
so
so
close,
cool.
and
Yeah.
it's pretty cool, but they had, like, a zombie school and showing what it's like to move as these characters, and the
Right.
clickers and the infected move differently than your typical zombie.
Yeah.
But, they felt, kinda like 28 Days Later, in that realm of infected people. Have you seen that show
Yeah.
or
I
that movie?
haven't seen it. I have not seen it.
Very,
Worth
very
it?
good. It's worth it. It's
Okay.
terrifying. It is
Oh,
terrifying.
okay.
Definitely, like, one of the scarier zombie films.
Yeah.
It has Cillian Murphy in it, and
Nice.
it also is about people being scarier than the infected. At a certain
I
point, it
like
it
that.
becomes yeah.
Yeah.
It takes 28 seconds for someone to turn in this world in
Oh,
28 Days Later.
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I will watch that. Is it
It's
on
very good.
HBO?
Um,
I'll look for
I
it.
don't know.
I'll look for it.
Yeah.
I will search it up.
Oh, cool.
Um, okay, so we finally make it through the house. I don't know what you call that section, but like the section with the sniper and the runners and the bloater.
The
Um,
bloater, I was
did
so
you
happy we got a bloater.
Yes.
I was so happy,
I'm
and
glad
then
you're happy.
I was upset because he didn't have the little spores that shoot out. I really wanted to see
Yeah.
some crazy effect where he was, like, not just charging like he does, but he'll
Yeah.
shoot you with stuff too, and you're like, Okay." Like,
Yo,
a
he was
blast of
throwing
fungal energy,
people.
I would have loved to see that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe he even, like, rips a part of his fungal stuff over and throws it. Like, I just, anything. I wanted to
Yeah.
see a bloated, big bloater,
So
not floater. Yeah.
Nikki, the bloater is the big infected that came out at the end of episode 5 that ripped off Perry's head. That was gruesome. Poor Perry. Like
Poor
he never got
Perry.
a shot at
No, and
anything.
he didn't deserve that.
Aw.
I
He could have
wanted
been a
I
good guy
wanted
that helped
he could have
Ellie
been a
and
good
Joel.
guy. He could have been a good
Anyway.
guy.
Eh,
He
anyway.
was he wasn't thinking
So
right.
pardon?
I said he wasn't thinking right.
Yeah, he was under some sort of enchantment
He
by
must have been.
Kathleen. Yeah. So then we go into um and by the way, Sam, Henry, Ellie, they dodged a bunch of infected. They were under a car for a second. Infected were coming at them, and I guess this is where we have a little bit of a foreshadowing for what comes at the very end of the episode, where Sam and Ellie are sitting on the bed having this conversation about well, Sam is basically like, you're never afraid, telling Ellie like, you're never afraid. What did you think about that whole interaction at the end of episode 5?
It was so sad.
It was it was a
Their
downer. Yeah.
fears, you know. And Ellie's not wanting to be alone. It
Yeah.
explains a lot about her character, and we see that in the game too, you know. We know she's afraid of that. I think she
Yeah.
says it in the game at some point.
Yeah.
And yeah, and being abandoned so much in her life.
Ugh.
It's just so hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard. And they include that, I think, too, in this sequence, because in that next episode, which I'll talk about a little bit, we
Okay.
see some stuff that shows her being abandoned or leads into that sort
Dang.
of level.
Dang.
Yeah.
Emma says Perry got the head rip death like if you get caught by the bloater in the game.
Yeah.
I appreciated that detail, and we finally got some much needed vulnerability from Ellie. I agree. So, you know how they were setting her up to be kind of sadistic and like not really listening to Joel? And we see a bit of her funny side with the puns, but now she's like, toying with the fact that maybe I am sort of a cure, and I get a taste of what it's like to be the protector, to be the big sister,
and to save somebody,
and
to
to
save
save
the world,
somebody.
which is what she's like, oh, this, once we get to where the
Yeah.
fireflies are, then I can save the world. I wonder how they'll do it. Let
Yeah.
me try it. Let me see what I
Let's
can do. Yeah.
experiment. I
Especially because
appreciated
it's
that.
her last minute to do it, you know? She's like,
Yeah.
well, it won't hurt, right?
Right. I think she
Then
was genuinely
I don't want you to turn.
I feel like she genuinely was.
She believes her blood is magic.
Exactly.
Because how else could it be? She's already seen all these other people turn. So
Right.
she's like, okay, it
Yeah.
has to be.
I love how she also didn't demonstrate any like fear when she saw Sam's thing. She was like, "Oh yeah, look at mine too." Like, she wasn't like,
Yeah, that
"Oh
was a
my
little
goodness."
weird.
Because if Joel or Henry saw that, their responses would be,
Why was she not fearful? That's what I don't get.
I guess, because she really was like, "You know what? Don't worry about it. I've survived.
Oh, or
Here."
it's okay, you're with me now. I can do it.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Why
don't
couldn't
know.
she have done that with Tess?
That's a good question.
What?
Not us exploring so hard that we're
Hmm.
unraveling some weak points,
Interesting.
but
She didn't care enough about Tess, but she cares
maybe.
about Sam.
Right. Maybe she had enough time to think about her
Maybe, yeah.
position and being in this big sister role. But yeah, so episode 5 sadly ends with, I think, for people who have not played the game, one of kind of the most upsetting endings yet, where Sam does eventually turn into an infected in the morning. Do you want to finish?
Yeah. So he turns, and then he attacks Ellie, and Ellie is like thrown into the other room. Joel and Henry both wake up, are completely startled, and yet they see what's happening. And in order to stop Ellie from getting killed in this moment, because Sam is attacking her and trying to get at her more, Henry shoots him. And it is one of it's so hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard. It's hard in the game and it's hard in the show.
Yeah.
And it's it's just painful.
Yeah. In the game, the player doesn't really have, it's like a cutscene. So
Mhm.
there's no, choice or anything. But I can imagine in that moment, everything's just very instinctual. Like, you see Sam. I don't know if Henry's looking at Sam or Henry's looking at what his brain is processing as an infected. And he's just automatically like goes for Sam. But then he has to deal with the ramifications of that instinctual choice and can't cope with it immediately after. And it's just such an examining of like the human condition. Oh my goodness.
What do you think of the choice to film and view the blood of Sam spreading rather than Sam's body, or just what Ellie's response and Joel's response and Henry's response are? Because every single time we get the cut in the show, it's Henry's scared eyes of like, what did I just do? What did I just do? Looking at the blood spreading.
Oh. Do you think there was supposed to be something significant out of that shot?
I think
Like
there is. And
something
I'm still trying to
philosophical?
figure out what it is, whether that's the spread of blood with the opening theme of like the spread of the fungi.
Mm,
Um the blood trying to seep and spread and like trying to make sense of its new location before it's like dying and then can't do
mm,
anything, or like it's our life juice. It's the human thing. We all have the same
maybe.
exact blood,
Yeah.
no matter whether we're infected or whether we're human.
Yeah.
And all
I
people have the same blood,
I want
basically.
to say it's more to that last point cuz
Mm.
Sam does ask Ellie like are we still inside? Are the people still inside when they turn into like the monsters?
Mm.
And I think when you see the blood leave, you're kind of seeing both Sam and the monster are both exiting this chat room. So Nikki says, the blood is what makes Sam still human, in my opinion. The way he sat on the bed, him bleeding out, it's like he was still in there, which is sad. I agree. That's kind of what
Mhm.
I'm thinking as well. All right. Um, Before we talk about the very end of episode 5 and episode 6, I'm gonna ask you to tell us a little story while I go and disappear for 5 seconds.
Can you give me a topic?
Um, uh, Give us a monologue on Steve Irwin in your Australian accent.
Oh my goodness. Okay. In my Aussie accent, oh gosh, I gotta lean into it. All right. So, uh, Steve Irwin is an idol in Australia, and in Australia, and when I was living there, I'm just gonna speak normally. Sorry, Kimmy. When I was living there as a kid, I actually got to meet one of the other guys on his show at the Australian Zoo, the National Australian Zoo. And it was really, really cool because he was showing us his like big old croc bite on his leg, and we got to see the cool croc show, and um we got to touch and pet the koalas and kangaroos, and that was really, really fun. Um and it was it was one of those things that looking back, I didn't realize how special it was to get to be around the crew for the Crocodile Hunter, and get to see them do their thing, their live shows, and they do them like twice a day or something at the zoo. But it was really, really fantastic. And we had this great Steve Irwin like bungee doll who had these stretchy arms, and we played with that thing all the time. And then it popped, and it was really, really sad. And then Steve Irwin passed away. It was very, very upsetting. I must have cried probably like all day. I had the same experience when David Bowie died. I just cried all day. And there are just certain days where you're just like, okay, we've just lost an angel somewhere, or no, Jesus, God, he's gained one.
Yeah.
We've lost someone here on Earth who is so inspirational to so many people. And gosh, Steve Irwin.
Yeah. Rest
He's
in
on my
peace.
team. David Bowie's on my team. Barbie's on
Oh,
my team. Who else?
Barbie.
Iroh, he's on there. I'm trying to think, like, of the people that I want to back me up, and like I'm going to war or whatever situation. I'm like, these people. Bob Ross is probably there. Mr. Rogers is there.
Okay. These are good
Yeah.
people.
These are the people that I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Tom Brady.
United. I don't know
No.
Tom Brady well enough for that. I don't know.
All right. Fair enough.
Barbie's a good one because she's everything. Be what you want to be, Barbie girl. She's a vet. She's an astronaut. She's got the experience to do anything. So I'm like, great. Okay.
I love that. That's smart, actually. I love that. I missed that.
This is my fantasy team. Yeah.
I love it. Were you answering Emma's
No,
question?
I didn't see. What did Emma say?
Oh, so Emma asked, would you be a collaborator or anti-Fedra in Kansas City?
I want to be anti-Fedra, but again, I think that was the word, collaborator.
Oh,
that was what he said.
Okay.
That was the quote, collaborator. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Emma. Collaborator.
Yeah.
I think people who are collaborators are desperate and are acting out of desperation. And I know I think that there's a lot of points in history where we've seen people having to turn their back on their communities. And I think it's easy for us to judge people in those kind of situations, and I don't know if we always can. I don't know.
Especially with the circumstances that
we have hindsight. We can make an assessment afterwards, but in the situation when it's this kind of goes back to a question of would you choose one over the many if the one was more important to you than the many? What would you do, Kimmy?
So, man, they're both to me, it's like hard. And again, I agree. Hindsight is where you'd be able to like see which was the better side to be on. Honestly, just from what Henry said about Fedra in Kansas City, that they were torturing and raping people and murdering, I would definitely just be anti-Fedra. And we'd figure out Kathleen and Perry and all of them later on. But for now, let's overthrow Fedra because they kind of have sort of, the power in the sense that they have the ammo, the weapons, the resources. My focus would be to overthrow that poison first, if that makes sense. You guys let us know in the comments, like, what would you be? That's a great question, Emma. Thank you so much. All right. Are you ready, Gabe? Because I feel like you're about to carry the last episode.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Not seen it.
I'm ready.
All right. So quickly, just before you get into it, I'm yet to watch it I'll have a little watch party group. That's the only reason I haven't seen it yet. And I have been sick, hence I have been isolating, socially distanced. So it's a very bad excuse, but I just wanted to say
it's fair.
Nothing else besides
You've got your watch party. You've got to watch it as a unit. I totally get that. So I actually watched this with some friends too, this last episode.
Nice. Okay.
And the friends that I were watching it with, they'd only seen up to episode 3. So they hadn't seen the last 2. And they were still like, yeah, it's okay. I don't really care. I'll just join in. And
they saw it up to what episode?
They had missed all of the Kansas City stuff. But
okay.
The comments that they had was kind of funny because they both were like, I feel like we didn't miss anything because they have the same exact relationship. And I was like, yes.
Girl.
Yeah, you didn't miss a thing with their relationship, basically, at this point. Because even after we've seen Henry and Sam go through this and then them both die.
Yeah.
The connection between Joel and Ellie is still not emotionally there.
Oh.
It does get better throughout the episode,
Okay.
But at the beginning of it, I'm like, I do not believe that you two have been together for months. I just do not believe it. And part of it's because there's this scene, they're camping.
Uh-huh.
Um, and they're sleeping, and Ellie says something like, do you want me to take the first watch? And Joel's like, no, I'll take the first and the second. As if he's been
Okay.
doing this for months. And I'm like, you can't even sustain this for a week. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like,
Right.
what?
Have you not
And
been sleeping at
right.
all?
But they mentioned, oh, we've been out for months now. And I'm like, so for months, you've been awake morning and night. And like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Traveling cross country. Yeah.
I will say they've added this new scene at the very, very beginning. The actors in this first scene were hands down my favorite actors of this whole episode.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
So funny, so good. It's an older couple, older, mid 50s, 60s, no, they're not in their 70s, 60s, 50s, 60s. Older couple living in this cabin, and there's some kind of Native American group, but they're living in their cabin, and it's just the two of them. And she's kind of clueless. The wife, she's kind of not a clueless, but she's like really, really sweet.
Yeah.
So she's just like, oh yeah, they got a girl. And the husband's come back, and he's like, you let these people in here, and they got the weapons up against them. I won't
Right.
spoil it too much. It is one of the best moments in the
Oh,
show.
okay.
But it quickly, as soon as they walk out of this cabin and they get their directions of where they're going, Joel has like a heart attack. Or none. It's like not quite a panic attack, but he has this moment where his heart is just beating so, so loud. And it feels weird because I'm like, why is this happening right now? Like, is he okay?
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a second, are we watching Red Dead Redemption because of the camping aspect of things? And in that game, there's a tuberculosis that infects your main character. Spoilers. But
Oh, okay.
it's really, really intense, and it's a huge plot point of the game.
Uh-huh.
And so everyone in my watch party, when we're watching it, was like, oh, he's got lumbago. Like,
What is that?
like that's like the joke quote of
Red Dead?
Red Dead, or at least what
Got
we
you.
call it for anyway, lumbago is
Got
not a
it.
big issue, but in the game we're joking like, oh yeah, that's what he's got. That's what he's
Yeah.
dying of.
Oh,
Or whatever.
interesting.
But so we were joking around with that.
Yeah.
But this episode, very quickly into camping, we get to meet Tommy
Oh,
and Maria. And it starts off with Maria and a raid of people. Oh, they pass the dam. And then they don't go into it. They just walk above it and pass it.
okay. But they give us a little bit of like,
It's just like
there's
look,
the
here's
dam.
the dam. There, see, you got
Okay.
your fan service there.
Yay.
Yeah. And then all of the riders come on horseback with the dog. And the dog sniffs Joel to see if he's infected. And then the dog sniffs Ellie to see if she's infected. And you're not sure what's going to happen. You're really, really nervous. And all of a sudden, Ellie and this dog are playing. And the dog's
Oh.
really happy and is like letting her pet and rub and like play.
Yeah.
And then the dog goes back, and Maria's like, I don't really know who you are. And then he's like, I'm Joel. And she's like, I think you might be the Joel we've been looking for. And you're like, okay, I guess we're going to go back and meet Tommy now. And then they give Joel and Ellie both their own horses.
Wait, but yeah.
And then they ride back to the camp. This is before, we don't get any dialogue between them of like, oh my gosh, I'm your brother's fiance or wife or whatever. We don't get any of that. It just kind of like cuts, and you're like, I guess we're okay then.
Oh, because
All
that was
right,
kind of
they've got
like
horses.
in the
Yeah.
game. Wasn't there a bit of like a
There is a little bit of tension between
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
And then we get, so can you remind me what happens in the game? Because I'm at a point
So
where I know my brain is
mhm.
like, I remember getting through the dam. I
Yeah.
remember like having to carry Ellie across. And then the next thing I remember is being in the encampment itself.
Right. So they have a brief moment where Maria and the people who run that I'm gonna say camp because I don't
The
know what
camp.
else to call it. They're looking at them from over the fence, and they're like, "Who are
Right.
you?" And then Tommy comes out, and he's like, "That's my brother." I think he says something else, kind of more quippy
Mm-hmm.
than that. He's like, "That's my brother," but they hadn't spoken in a while, and they actually had a fight. I think the last time they spoke.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, none of that happened, right?
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So what happens? Yeah, that did not happen. I can't remember it for some reason, but now I'm reminded. And so they all go back to the camp,
Mm-hmm.
and the camp is actually like a huge community in Jackson, and it's like, yeah,
Jackson.
it's filled with homes everywhere with people working. They're like, yeah, we've got a few hundred people here. We have communism.
Wait.
That's what they say. They're like, yeah, this is communist. And
Wait, what?
Joel looks, okay. So he quickly, once he gets in, he sees Tommy doing some construction on a building. And so they both hug it out, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so sweet and tender. And I'm so happy for them. And then they're like, yeah, this is our greenhouse, and this is where we have our sheep. And then they hug each other out again, or something like that. I don't know. And then Maria's like, yeah, we have communism here. And she's really proud and happy about how it's going around. And Joel like gives Tommy a dirty look, like, are you kidding me? What is this?
Right.
And Tommy is just like,
Well,
it is what it is.
oh gosh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not gonna last. This is
Yeah.
not gonna last. This is not going to last. It's
I
not going to
mean,
turn out well. It never does.
in that,
Uh,
especially in that landscape of like The Last
yeah.
of Us, this
Yeah.
is an interesting premise. So they arrive. By the
So,
way, is it true that Maria was cast as a black actress?
yes.
Okay, just checking. I mean,
Yes.
I don't have any because Maria is not really a very central character.
No, but
I'm
have you
not
noticed that
married.
all the blonde characters have been cast as black people or black women?
Sarah,
There's
Maria.
only 2 blonde characters, Maria and Sarah, and both of them are now black. Not that it's really anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. But I am just saying, like, oh, that's
This
interesting. I did notice that.
That is
Yeah.
interesting. I didn't notice that they were blonde, but I did notice that they had uh that recasting. I will say I mean I loved Sarah. I haven't
Same,
seen
same.
Maria,
I thought
but
the actress who played her was very well cast. I thought she just
yeah,
captured the essence of it, so I was like, great.
yeah,
It doesn't matter. And the same
right.
thing with Maria. It doesn't actually matter to the role itself.
Got you. But is she
Right.
likable as a character? Oh,
I didn't see anything to like or dislike. It just
okay.
was.
Got you.
Um,
Okay.
the other thing that they've changed and added in this, do you want me to spoil it?
Definitely. Please. Wait, no, no, actually your face is giving me
It's not too big, but it is some
no, 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 no,
Tommy
no.
motivation stuff.
Wait, what?
There's some Tommy motivation stuff in here.
Okay, I guess if you think I should know, let me know. I'm gonna find out anyway, so it's okay.
So in this version, Maria is pregnant.
Okay.
And
Okay.
not even just pregnant. I believe they said she was 6 months on the way, 3 months left, is how they said it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. She doesn't look that pregnant to me, but hey, maybe she just hasn't popped yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, but what's weird is I'm like, Tommy, you're over here doing construction inside your encampment, and here you are letting your pregnant woman, your wife, the bearer of your children, ride a horse on a raid outside. Are you kidding me?
Uh,
What? I don't
yeah.
buy it. I don't buy it. Mm-mm.
Uh,
And he's like, "Oh, I can't go take care of you. Um, and Ellie, I can't lead you to Salt Lake. I can't go take you to the university because I have to protect my family." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?
so this is
What
a
are you
complete
doing?"
divergence from the game, right?
Oh,
Because in the
yeah.
game, there's this whole thing where who was gonna take Ellie? Tommy was gonna take Ellie, right?
Tommy was going to take Ellie.
And they were actually like heading out, like they were on the
Mhm.
way, and that's where they had
She
the
does
huge fight
her
with
she has
Joel.
her runaway moment in the
She
game.
has her runaway moment. So does this play out in the episode as well?
She does not have a runaway moment in this game.
No way.
She overhears Tommy and Joel talking,
Hmm.
and they say something along the lines of like, I want you to take her. I don't really care who does it. I don't need to be there. You know, he's like Joel doing
Joel?
his like disassociating thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, it's too painful, you know, and they don't really talk about Sarah, but you know it's about Sarah. Um
Mm.
and Joel kind of breaks down again, and then they get into another fight. And then they kind of like walk it off. There's also a giant movie theater in this place. There's lots of kids. There's lots of like happy people. They're
Hmm.
celebrating Christmas. Um,
Yeah.
there's Christmas trees, and everybody in this village seems really content and happy.
Right.
And there's a moment, gosh, in the after talk, they're like, there's this little tiny bit where Joel is outside watching the people celebrate Christmas and like play around the tree and stuff. And there's a girl who has the same hair, afro, long haired style that Sarah has.
Yeah.
Um, and he thinks he sees her for a second, but when I'm watching the show, I did not get that that's what that was, because it's not clear enough that that's what they
Mm.
were alluding to. I just thought that he was staring off and was like, "Oh, kids
Yeah.
playing." Like,
Right.
that's just what I saw, and I was like,
Got
"Okay."
you.
And then his heart starts to hurt again, you know, and he's like,
No.
"Oh, I'm in pain." I'm like, "Okay, okay."
I don't like this heart situation. What is
I
it?
don't either. I don't really, and maybe it's not his heart necessarily. It might just be like a clenched chest or something, you know, like
Yeah.
his heart is just a part of that. Um, but then instead of doing her runaway bit, she gets into almost a shot for shot, line for line not replica,
Hmm.
reenact. No, what is the word?
Like, yeah.
Replication of the scene in the game where Ellie and Joel fight, and she brings up Sarah, and she had talked, you know, with Maria. She gets like a little bit of a haircut, and
Oh,
we
nice.
learned that Maria had uh a son named Kevin at some point who also passed away.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay.
Tommy is giving reverence to Sarah, and she is giving reverence to Kevin.
Okay. Totally. It's,
Yeah,
I'm tracking.
that's
I'm tracking
I
with you.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
when Ellie brings up, "Hey, we've got, the issues that we've got here, like, I know you don't care about me, I'm not your daughter." They have that fight back and forth, and that scene in the game is, like, a really pivotal moment because
Hmm.
Joel is like, "I'm not your dad." And even if,
Hmm.
like, I could, I wouldn't wanna be, or, like, whatever
Oof.
mean, spiteful thing he says to her. And
Yeah.
then that next scene, uh Tommy is getting ready to go and take Ellie to Salt Lake, and then Joel shows up in the horse stalls, and he's like, "Actually, I decided I'm going to do it." And I don't remember there being something in between that shows, like, why he makes that change, or, like, what about it, or whether he's reflecting and he's like,
You know
"I
what?
shouldn't have said that. I'm going to do this anyway." Um,
Uh-huh.
I don't remember. Yeah, then Joel completely changes his mind and takes Ellie anyway. Yeah. Thanks, Emma.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
very, very weird. When you're gonna watch it, you're gonna be like, "Huh, huh," but keep an eye out for it, because maybe I am missing something.
okay.
Um,
Got you.
and so then they start riding together. They leave the encampment or the village, whatever you wanna call it, and they start heading down to Salt Lake, and on the way, it felt like I was watching, like, Shrek and Donkey bonding moments. I was like, "Yes, here we go!" Like, you
Oh.
know, they're traveling
Yeah.
together, they're becoming friends, and, like,
Oh,
they've got
okay.
some jokes back and forth, and, like, they're playing together, and they're both communicating in a way that I'm like, "This is father-daughter content. This is this is why I'm here. This is the
Finally.
bond that I wanna see, and I wish it had come, like, just a little bit earlier, because
Yeah. It
it
took a
would make it
while.
even better."
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's
yeah.
episode 6 out of 9, so
Yeah.
I feel like they could have, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I haven't seen the episode yet, so I anyway. Is there any particular scene of this episode that you felt was the strongest? or the weakest? Any particular takeaways from this that you're like, I wish they didn't do that?
I still love the opening scene. I think that opening scene was killer. Very
Yeah.
good. Very,
Okay.
very good scene.
Nice.
And I also really, really enjoyed seeing the scene of the back and forth between Ellie and Joel, their fight.
Yeah.
Just because I've seen the game and I've played it, so I know that scene well, and it's an important moment, and I think that they did a really good job in honoring the game.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
let's see.
So do they?
Yeah.
What happens in like the sort of Act 2, Act 3?
Act
Yeah.
3, they're on their way to
So they're going
Salt
to the
Lake.
university. Okay.
And I think they're heading to Salt Lake. That sounds right, right? Maybe I'm wrong.
Sounds
Maybe I'm
right
not.
to me.
Sounds right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So they're going to Salt Lake, and then they get to the university, they see the monkeys,
Oh,
and
no
we're starting
way.
to follow them in certain buildings, and in this point, I'm like, "Wow, this looks just like the game. I totally remember this." And
Yeah.
in that part, when you enter the game, or when you enter these buildings in the game, there's a generator you got to go get. There's some infected here and there, but it's not like super widespread filled with infected people. But you can
Yeah.
tell the hospital's been ransacked and people have left in a hurry and stuff is kind of everywhere. And it's funny when they get there in the show. Um, Ellie like walks in, she's like, "This is definitely a hospital," and there's like doctors stuff everywhere. I'm like, "Yeah, no, duh, Ellie. Like, of
No.
course, duh, yeah."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. And
No.
yeah, and so when you get upstairs into that location, because they're looking around to see like, where's the people, where's the information, and I'm thinking, oh, are they gonna press the tape recorder? Are we gonna hear someone speak? No, no,
Yeah.
none of
Oh,
that.
okay.
We're just gonna hear the monkeys upstairs, and then get scared, and then when we look out the window, we're gonna go see 4 like raider men. I don't know what else to call them. Like,
Oh,
and so
got
they're
you.
like, okay, we got to get out of the building now.
Oh
And so while
gosh.
they're leaving the building and trying to get to their horse again, so they learn that the fireflies who were here left. They don't know where they went, but they know they're gone.
Okay.
Um, and then while they're leaving, the 4 guys like ambush them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the way it's done is weird to me because Joel is putting something on the horse. So like he's facing one way. He's surveying one way, and Ellie's surveying the other way. And then all of a sudden, these guys, like, in a field, basically, there's like a tree or two, and there's a building off in the distance, but somehow they like jump on him, and I'm like, Ellie, how did you not see these guys? I don't
Right.
understand the layout of like, you're in a field, like,
Okay.
how did you not
Oh,
see
how did
them,
you?
the ambush coming? Like, you could
Right.
just see them, because they get there really, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then, uh, Joel has this sweet kill, with breaking
Really,
somebody's
like a
neck.
video game.
Yeah, where you're like, "Oh, okay, he would've done that
Yeah.
for sure." And then instead of in the game, he gets impaled, from falling off a high ledge.
Yeah.
Very, very, Shaun of the Dead, may I point out.
Yes.
And when you're playing the game, you're like, "Oh, Joel's dead now."
Yeah. You're like,
Because you
okay,
get impaled by
R.I.P.
that, you are dead, if not by tetanus, then the wound itself, like,
Right.
are going to die. Um, and it's a miracle. It's just a miracle. I wanted to say anything else. Um, and, what was I gonna say? Just okay, so in this version, in the show, he just gets stabbed, and it is a stab,
Oh,
like,
okay.
it's like with a knife. Um, it's a pretty deep stab, and he takes it out, and I'm like, "Dude, you're not
Come
supposed to take
on.
that out. Like, come on, like, you think that at this point, you've been living in the apocalypse for 10 years, and you don't have first aid training. You, like, can't
Come on.
realize like,
Especially for Joel
I
Miller.
know. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Joel, what are you doing? What? What? No. Go get
That's
some bandages.
weird.
The hospital's right there. What are you doing?"
Right.
And so then there's other people, they try to swarm, and so they have to, like, leave and run away, and, then it kind of ends with them escaping and going back up on the road. I think they're heading back towards Tommy's. And then Joel falls off the horse and Ellie gets off and is crying and is like, "Don't leave me alone." And that's
Joel.
where we go. That's where to black.
Yay!
And then it cuts actually to black with some it was some folk pop girl song. And I was like, this is weird. I don't know what the
Oh,
song is, but it felt tonally like I was like, what is this? What?
huh.
This
Is
is
it
not what
supposed
I
to?
expected them to play. It was
Maybe it
too
was.
pop. It was too
It
poppy
was way too
sounding.
poppy, like just not fitting.
Yeah.
May
Something about it felt weird.
Interesting.
It felt slow, and I know it was action finally in that episode, but I was like,
Yeah.
uh-uh.
Okay. And thank you for the breakdown. I appreciate that. I tracked
Yeah,
everything.
sorry.
I was looking at the video game visuals in my head.
Mhm.
I just want to read this comment from Emma. Emma says episode 6 was painfully anticlimactic action-wise.
Yes.
Especially when there's a big action sequence in the game that they dropped.
Mhm.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. Gabe, do you think that is in check? That
is
assessment?
well put, Emma. I completely agree.
Yeah. I'm curious, the what was I gonna say? The game. I'm not curious. I just wanted to say the way the game does that impalement was so unrealistic. Like I gotta give props to like Craig and Neil for adapting that to a stab, because
Right.
I was a 14-year-old girl who's never been in a car, supposed to drag this full man who has been like brutally like ended in his midsection and just
There's
find
basically like a hole you can just see through Joel. Like that's
exactly
how bad it is, basically.
so I would kind of take some demerits from the game there, but
The stab isn't the thing that bugs me. I think it's the way that it happens that I'm
right,
like, ugh, what?
yeah,
Especially because he only really gets one kill in. And I'm like,
oh
Game
right,
Joel could take out 50 of you in 2 seconds.
right. Do you think this was maybe the option to reduce the violence perhaps was a rating issue? Because like if it became like
Oh,
a
yeah.
narco, like, you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Do you think that was?
I don't know. HBO, they have Game of Thrones, they
I
have
mean, yeah,
Barry,
it's already
they have
violent.
tons of stuff. They have
Yeah,
Velma. Are you kidding me? Like
Velma is so gruesome. Oh,
right. But
damn
I'm
it.
like, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for the breakdown, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch it. And maybe the next time we gather together, have some actual points to contribute. I'm so sorry for that.
Oh,
But
no,
thank you
no,
so much for
no.
carrying the discussion on that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I hope
I
you
love
enjoy the episode. I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are and if you notice
yeah.
things that I didn't see.
Do you think you're going like further, you're becoming more and more disenchanted with the adaptation, or are
Yes.
you like
Yes.
oh, okay.
I was so happy. That first episode really was like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
gonna be the best show I've ever seen. And I'm
Yeah.
slowly, every single episode,
Oh no.
losing faith. But they still have a chance to really get it
Right.
back up, because not the next episode, because I've already previewed what the next episode's going to be, but the one
Yeah.
after that, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, here we
Right.
go. This is the big one.
I love
This is
it.
the big one.
So far, up to episode 5, I'm in love with it. I think episode 5 is like an Emmy-winning episode.
Really?
Personally, to me, I mean, the acting from Henry and Sam,
I mean,
plus
yeah,
the writing
they're
as
so
well.
good.
You know, again, we're spoiled because we've kind of lived with the game for a bit, but a lot of people, this is a new story being delivered and portrayed through these actors.
Even with the added leukemia,
Even with the added leukemia, they ain't thinking about it that deep.
I wonder if it's even real. Like, part of me is like, is Henry just saying that to Joel to get Joel to help him out of the situation? Because, sorry, going back to episode 5, because he needs Joel. He needs Joel in order to escape the city. And he knows that. So maybe he is trying to play up.
Maybe
like
he did try to
that. I don't know.
That is a good one. I need to do my homework, but I wonder if there is even a correlation between leukemia and losing your hearing or losing like a function. of your body, I'm not sure. Still, you're gonna make me think about this for like a week because I'm like, why did he say that? Like, was
Wait,
it
what
right that
what
it?
do I not know that is so obvious to the
Yeah,
situation that I'm gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, duh, duh."
I guess they just needed
But
something, either in the sense of like, yeah, Henry needed to convince Joel, or the writers needed to convince us of how desperate he had to be. Because
mhm.
if they, anyway, I'm getting too deep into this, but yeah,
Yeah.
no further comments, Your Honor. Um, well, Gabe, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thank you, everyone who's tuning in, whether you're joining us live or joining us on the replay. I really appreciate the hang tonight. Thank you, Nikki, Emma, Jade, everyone who contributed to the conversation.
Mhm.
I'm loving The Last of Us. I'm looking forward to having a Last of Us experience in LA. Maybe they'll hit you up in Pennsylvania, Gabe.
Oh,
I
yeah,
will
yeah.
be all over that. Hopefully, we can score some goodies with HBO to give out to people. That would be so sick.
It'd be so cool.
Anyway, love you all. Hope you have a wonderful night. Gabe, is there anything you want to leave
Oh,
off with, or any way people can keep in touch with you? Maybe
yeah.
follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, best place to follow me is definitely on Instagram. I don't do
Okay.
Twitter. I do LinkedIn, but, like, don't go there. Just go to my Instagram.
What is your Instagram?
My
I'm typing it
Instagram
in.
is Gabvo, so it's G.A.B.V.O.
.vo. Okay.
Gabvo. Yeah.
Nice. Follow Gabe. She is
Thank
awesome.
you.
And she has a demo reel out available at
Yeah, yeah.
gabrielashtonbrown.com. You can follow me at Kimi Katiti on Instagram, or visit kimikatiti.com for more of my work. And guys, I will see you in 3-ish weeks. 2.5 now, because this was a little late.
3-ish, 2.5.
Two and a
Yeah.
half ish.
Yeah.
And we will be talking about the end, like episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Maybe we should do something big to celebrate.
What
I
should we
don't
do?
know.
What are you thinking?
Like infected cake or something like that. I don't know. Something like
I
that. Like you
love
make
that.
some I don't know, some fungal looking
Yeah,
cake or some
fungal
I don't know.
cookies. I
Fungal
don't know,
cookies.
like party
We'll get
hats that
creative.
are
If you guys have
cordyceps.
ideas, shoot
Yeah.
them my way and
Okay.
I will consider.
Let's workshop that. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and
Thank you so much, Kimmy.
I'll catch you very soon.
Bye.